everybody. Welcome to the Hard Truth Inside the Football Industry podcast with me, Philip Heitzen, and Darragh McAnthony, chairman and co-owner of English Championship side, Peterborough United. And I think we've traded spaces this week. Darragh, you're back in the States, I'm back in the UK.
Yeah, finally home after 60 days away. So it was, it was great. I flew to New York, met the missus. You know, I hadn't drank for 2 months, fucked for 2 months. I hadn't done any of the good things in life. So I made up for lost time. Took a suite in the Plaza in Central Park. Stayed in there for a few days. Went out to the tennis occasionally at night time to watch a few events at Flushing Meadows. Yeah, it was really, really good. Really good. And then back home on Sunday to the kids. And just a dream weekend, to be fair. And these are the perks of when you're in the championship, when you have international breaks. So you actually get a bit of family time where you're not obsessed about like results of the weekend. So I didn't even know about international football. I had no intention of watching any football this weekend. It was just kind of completely get away from it. And then soberly, I'm woken today with stuff from Barry about injuries or issues or whatever, like updates. And I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake, football's back in a few days. But no, it was all good. To be fair, I needed that because, by the time deadline came around, and I was just like, the day after that, I was burnt out. I was kind of, it's been a heavy couple of months, not in a bad way, in a good way, but the work catches up in you.
Yeah.
And you kind of, when I'm in the UK and my family aren't with me, you're coming home to an empty house every day. So it does get a little bit mentally exhausting. So I was, once deadline had passed, I couldn't wait to get in the old airplane and get the fuck out of Dodge and get home. So happy to be home.
Is being away from your kids and your family the hardest thing about managing, having to go backwards to the UK and backwards and forwards and being a remote chairman, I guess?
Lockdowns, mate, the whole COVID thing's fucked it up because they would come over in the summer with me for July and August and, go home the last 2 weeks. Well, they'd go home like to the first week of August to get back into school. So I'd spend 3-4 weeks without them. But the last 2 summers, they hadn't made it over because of all the rules and this, that, whatever. And, Natalie just felt, look, let's just stay in America with all that drama going on and of paperwork and tests. And so, to be fair, I'll be really honest, it's been hard. And it's like, if that carries on, I'm not sure how much longer I can own a football club and do it. If I'm really honest, you know what I mean? Because I'm just like, it's so much time away. And my kids are now like 15, 14, 12. 2 of them are in high school. College is coming up in a few years and you start the process now. So, to commit 2 months away at a time, never mind a month away at a time, it's a lot. So that's great on my mind a lot at the moment. So I'm hoping, by the turn of Christmas in 2022, we can really start moving past this, you know what I mean? And stop being obsessed with locking up fucking countries, restrictions, rules, red lists. And, I saw a journalist last night talking about the Brazil and Argentina game, and I think his comment was, we must respect the red lists. And I'm like, no, fuck the red lists. We were told, the vaccines will come. Everything would then stop, you know what I mean? And, why the fuck are there red lists? I still can't get my head around healthy footballers who go away or come back. No one's dying of COVID that plays football, and they haven't since it all started. And for those of you screaming right now, but what about those they infect? Well, no, again, I go back to those they can infect can go get a vaccination. And that has shown, even though you can still get COVID, you're less likely to fucking die and you're less likely to have a bad outcome. So, this red list, I just want it all to end now because now we're all vaccinated. We all have a choice to do it. So enough of the red list, enough of the red tape, the bureaucracy and the shite. Because it's exhausting, Phil. And, it's affecting so many people and horrible.
Yeah, you don't know what test to take. Like we just came over the weekend and it takes a PhD to figure out what tests you need to take, when you need to take them, which apps you got to upload everything to.
I'm lucky because I've been through this for like 18 months. And I said to you, I'm up to my 67th COVID test now I've done, since I've traveled. And I'm an expert now going back at the throat, nostrils without touching the tongue and doing it all correctly. And even though I do the instant test, I'm like a doctor with this shit. I've done so many of them now. As for the paperwork, again, easy peasy. I have so much. I've got a whole COVID folder and Dropbox from every test I've taken. Flew to New York this weekend. I had to have a vaccine passport. So I couldn't take my kids because that fucking numbnuts who runs New York, one of your blues, has brought in a vaccine passport. So my children couldn't go to the tennis, couldn't go to a restaurant, can't go to a hotel because, again, they're so desperate to get 12-year-olds to get a fucking vaccine they don't fucking need. It's mad. So I'm just praying and hoping. It's coming out in England. it's worrying me because I don't know how I'm going to get into a football game because my vaccine isn't an NHS vaccine. Mine's Johnson and Johnson. So, I'm going to face with if we're away at Derby County, Sheffield United, big club with 20,000 plus crowd, they won't let me in because even though my vaccine's a good vaccine, it's not on the NHS app. So how am I going to get in? It's like,
I was talking to you before we started recording. We were going to go to the England game against
mm-hmm,
Andorra at the weekend, but we
mm-hmm,
couldn't because even though we've been vaccinated, we don't have
mm-hmm.
it's not in the NHS app.
Yeah.
So because it's not in the NHS app, that's all you needed. You had to be able to show that to get into the game. So
Yeah, these numbnuts have come up with these rules and decided to strike off the rest of the world population outside of the UK from these rules. So that's great for business for like the United Kingdom. But again, if I can't go to away games, what's the point in owning a football club? So yeah, all very bizarre to be fair, pal. But I guess this is the twilight zone we've been living in for a long period of time. So yeah, it is what it is. But look, it was. Did you have a good end of deadline? Did Bradford sign a couple of players?
we brought in one striker. I think that some injuries had forced our hand in terms of where we wanted to look. So we ended up bringing in Theo Robinson at the end of deadline day. That was pretty much the business that we ended up doing. So we'll see if that's enough. I fear that we are, but I'm sure any League Two team feels the same. You're a couple of injuries away
Ryan reached
from.
out to me on the night before deadline. He did message me, Ryan, and say, "Oh, have you got a striker he can loan us?" And obviously, no, because we strikers injured and we had issues, and even our young ones, were like injured or backup or whatever. And I did say to him, I said, "Look, because I got my gem scouts and stuff like that, I gave him a name of a striker in non-league that I thought, if we'd been in League One again, we probably would have taken him in League One." And I said to Ryan, "Get onto your owner and get him to buy this striker because I'm convinced he would score 25 goals League Two level and win you the title." And I said, it might cost you 300-400 grand over a few years, but a club your size with the gates you have, that's a piece of piss. But that's down. But I know Ryan he only had, I think, a budget for a loan signing or a free signing, so it was a difficult one. You know what I mean? In fairness, he knew the player, so he'd done his research. But yeah, that striker for me would have guaranteed you the title.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I think we're living sustainably, which on one hand is it's a good position to be in, but on the other hand, sometimes maybe you need to push the boat out a little bit, and it's not that big of a risk when you look at the income that we can generate from the crowds that we would get.
If I was getting 17, 18,000, trust me, yeah, absolutely. So you got the income. And I think because Ryan's done such a good job bringing your wage bill down to such a manageable level, like I said, it's that one special player you sometimes need. So you have to, as owners, push the boat out and go, we didn't want to break our budget. We want to run it sustainably. But you know what? We might have to put in an extra 200 grand just for this one signing. Because that one signing, if that gets you up, the difference in revenue, if that striker scores 25 goals, straight away, he's worth double, triple what we paid. Yes, the downside is if he turns out to be a pile of shit, you've lost 200 grand. And I go like this 200 grand versus probably 2 million, 3 million is the difference in promotion income to League One. I'll take that bet every day of the week in a casino.
Yeah, it's all about your risk reward.
100%. 100%. So, yeah, absolutely. So you're happy with Robinson coming in?
Well, we'll see. He's been to a number of different clubs. I remember back in the day, he was certainly half decent. And that was a long time ago. Honestly, I don't have an opinion. I want to see him. See him prove himself, if you will.
Did he play on Saturday?
He came on the last 10 minutes. So we didn't really, had one chance in injury time, put it over the bar, but it was a tough chance. So we didn't really get the chance to show anything.
Fair enough. How'd you play on Saturday?
It was a frustrating one. So we drew 1-1 with Walsall. It was one of those where, you 1-0 up and it's pretty easy. And then they just get a goal out of nowhere. And then the next minute they had a man sent off. And so 43 minutes down and they're down to 10 men. And it was like, if they'd have had 11 men, we'd have probably walked it. We were that dominant. But, they got they went down to 10 men, went into half time 2 minutes later, had the chance to reorganize. They just built a wall, at the back.
Resilient.
Yeah. And we just weren't creative enough. I mean, we just kept lumping it in and, the centre backs, keep heading it back out. And it was a bit like tennis. And you just thought, try something different. But it just kept on coming in and kept on coming back out again.
And you brought your kids,
Yes.
obviously they're full Bradford fans now, buying all the strip. Had a good day. You know, what I
Yeah.
mean, did Ryan look after you? Did you get your good tickets?
Yeah, we got tickets, and good tickets in the main stand, and
Good.
we have the kids wanted our kitting out, so spent an arm and a leg in the shop. So
Good.
we they had a great time. They were jumping and cheering and everything. So they really get into it when they're in the live stadium. Watching on iFollow, not so much, because I guess it's just hard. Especially when you're young.
Of
They're only
course.
8 and the 8 and 5. But
Yeah.
when they're in the stadium, they love that atmosphere.
No, good. Good. That's what it's
So,
all about. Next gen, you know what I mean? Are you going to more games before you go home?
yeah, so we got Salford on Saturday. So we're going to go to
Cool.
Salford, and then we've got another home game against Barrow, and the kids are going to be mascots for that. So
Oh,
they're
brilliant.
really
So,
looking
so you
forward
got
to that.
so you're traveling away to Salford, and then
Hmm.
that's not too far, is it? It's not
No, it's
hundreds of
like an hour
miles.
and a quarter, something like that.
Yeah, perfect. And then the kids are obviously going to be the mascots then for the Barrow game.
Yeah.
So no, they're two good games, right? Two juicy games.
Yeah,
Decent.
the Salford one, I mean, they've had a really bad start to the season. And, knowing us, they'll have a good chance to arrest that. That's usually what happens.
Have some
But
confidence.
yeah, but let's see. Maybe we'll be the final nail in Gary Bowie's um, coffin, because things haven't been
Yeah.
going so well for them this season. And then Barrow. I mean, it's easy to say, oh, it's only Barrow, but they've had a decent start. They won 3-0 away at Oldham at the weekend.
Mark Cooper's a good manager, to be
Hmm.
fair. And your Suttons and your Barrows of the world and your Harrogates who are flying in
I mean,
fucking
they're
League
top.
Two.
Harrogate are top right
Yeah,
now.
yeah, 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 yeah. But again, they're showing you, it's not always about crowds, budgets,
Yeah.
wages, and that's the beauty about our pyramid. So, things you love to see, a Bradford
Hmm.
City fan sweating about going to Barrow or playing
Right.
Barrow at home. That's
I
just the
mean,
wonderful thing about it, the EFL.
well, yeah. I mean, last year Harrogate did the double over us. I mean,
There you go.
they're 20 minutes up the road from where I live,
Mm-hmm.
and you always go past there thinking, a little non-league club. And now, the top of League Two and deserve every bit of that,
Brilliant,
and did the
brilliant,
double over us last year.
brilliant.
I guess that's when you look at the National League. Half that National League probably good enough to be in League Two, and maybe
Good.
even some higher
The
than that.
wages they're paying,
Yeah.
absolutely. So, mental, obviously, Wrexham have suddenly decided they're going to go for it. And, whoever's obviously in there running it for, Ryan Reynolds and his partner, I'm a little bit worried for them. Do you know what I mean? With some of the things like the deals they're trying to buy, and they're buying League One centre halves, they're doing whatever. But look, as long as it works, it's fine. When it doesn't, you get a bad taste. And this is what can happen with foreign owners sometimes. You get people in, football people, you go in, and you're a foreign owner. If you don't know, because I don't think Deadpool knows a lot about football. So as my son loves Deadpool, and they go in and they get these people, so-called experts, in to run a club, and if they end up overdoing it, and it leaves a bad taste, if they don't get promoted, the owners then get tired, and the owners can get pissed off, and then they start going off. Oh, I'm not as interested anymore, and then what happens? Do you know what I mean? So there's always that fear, but they've made some very good signings. I'd say that's for sure. Some very, very good signings, and you'd like to think they're going to win that league.
Now, with the bottleneck that is the National League, though, with only
Hmm.
two going up, would that be somewhere where you'd want to put your money if you're investing in a club to grow, or would you
No,
be looking at somebody that's already that's already League Two at least?
because there's so many clubs available. Why would you bother? Unless it was like a Bradford fell into non-league by some miracle, then you'd be all over it because it's like, hang on, this is the biggest club that's like been in non-league. You'd probably say Luton was one of the biggest clubs that was in non-league, and look how long it took them to get out, even though they've had like a miracle rise since then. So no, if I was buying a club, you'd be League Two all day long. You wouldn't go fucking near the National League. Not a chance. Look, good luck to whoever pays and buys clubs there. But my God, it's a graveyard for Notts County. I
Hmm.
mean, Notts bloody
And they've been
County.
there years now.
Goodness me.
Yeah,
I
and
want to say that Notts County have been there 3 years, 4 years.
3 or 4 years at
Oh,
least. And you got
Jesus
like the
Christ.
Stockports and the Chesterfields,
Uh,
and I mean, I think I
we,
read
we
Wrexham have been 14 years down there.
Stockport were our rivals.
Yeah.
When I bought the posh, and Stockport with Jim Gannon, got promoted with us. They were up there, top 8 in League One, magnificent club. We had some great rivalries. I go back to like Wrexham again. When I came in, I took Darren Ferguson off Wrexham. He was
Hmm.
like their player, so I hired him as a player coach, and we had to pay like a £5,000 fee. But again, Wrexham, bigger club than Peterborough. You know what I mean? In that respect. And I've done a lot better things, bigger things. Tranmere, just before I came in, they were in the Championship. Plymouth, top 12 of the Championship. I mean, yeah, look, we know what the pyramid's like. Bradford were probably in the Premier League when I bought Posh.
Yeah, well, we were Premier League 2000, 99, 2000.
So 15 years, 2005, 2006.
Yeah, we were probably just going bankrupt for the second time. We basically went from Premier League to League Two in 7 years, and we went bankrupt twice along the way.
Right, so you're probably in League Two then with us. Stuart McCall was your manager, but you beat us.
Yes, Stuart. We hired Stuart as it was too young really too inexperienced probably, but we needed something to try and whenever we need something to galvanize the club, it's pick up the phone to Stuart.
Yeah, no, mad. But the one thing that was funny this weekend was there wasn't a lot of games on, was there?
No.
I mean, I want to say it was only 3 in League One. How many were in League Two? I mean, it just wasn't a lot of football games.
Three in League One. We had a full complement except for Colchester against Sutton that was postponed. So it was mostly League Two. So League One was Accrington beating Shrewsbury, Accrington going top, Wimbledon beating Oxford, and then Cheltenham and MK Dons drawing.
Yeah, the Wimbledon one, like I said to you, I tipped them as a dark horse, didn't I? At the start of the season, I said, they got some good young players, they got a really good coach from their youth, and they're buying into it. They're back at Plough Lane properly now, fans. A lot of exciting things are happening, which I'm happy about because I think they're a magnificent football club and run very well. Good luck to Akron and Stanley. Do you know what I mean? It's like, we all know that their owner, we don't always see eye to eye, but, their manager always seems to work miracles and gets the best out of them. So, they're flying at the top of League One. Wow, brilliant.
Did you have a nibble for one of their strikers on deadline day?
Look, I would never talk about another club's players. We finally got the midfielder we've been waiting weeks for, and everyone knows who it was. And the problem there was West Ham had told us we were originally buying him, and then the player, wanted the player did very well pre-season with West Ham, so that kind of scuppered the buy thing. So then it became okay, let's get him on loan, because we know he's a very talented young player. And we've done a lot of research. We've watched him. I spoke with Jack Collison, his ex-coach, who's now in America. We coached him at the West Ham youth level. We spoke with Jack Taylor, who's played with him at Ireland on the 21 level. So we liked him as one of our 4 central midfielders. So we've been kind of playing so far the first 5 games of the season with 2 central midfielders. Jack Taylor's been out, and we haven't had the 4th in, so we haven't had that depth in that department. The reason we had a nibble for a striker was a few reasons. Obviously, Jono and Jack Marriott still catching up on their fitness. I'm hoping they're going to be different animals the other side of the international break. And we had a behind the doors game on Friday, and the running numbers were excellent from all the players involved. That I believe the scoreline was 6-1, and Schmoddix and Marriott scored 2 hat-tricks. And it was a front 3 of Randall, Schmoddix, and Marriott. And I believe Randall was sensational. And young
it wasn't the under-10s they were playing, was it?
No, the squad played each other.
Okay.
it was a mix of the squad playing each other. So it was the strongest. Yeah. I think the manager mixed and matched the team. I think on one team was Sammy and Marriott and Randall. On the other team was Dembele, Jono, and another player behind them. And I think I want to say, again, you had Ronnie Edwards is in the team that won. And I won't say some of the defenders are, who are in the other team, but I think it was 6-1. So, and it was a full on, I got all the statistics. They were running 11 clicks in the game, a good half of the players. So that was good for their fitness.
Right.
And Mario,
and confidence.
Again, confidence, fitness, minutes. We've got an under 23 game this week. I believe a few of them will be playing in that again. So for us, the reason we looked at it was Jono's got a hearing coming up because tweets he sent out when he was 17. We don't know if that's going to be a game ban or a 2-game ban. The FA are in this place where they're going after 14-year-olds for tweets and 17-year-olds for tweets. And that's a story of another day. Jack's, as we know, hasn't played for a long time, so we're getting him back to fitness. Dembele stayed, thankfully. And then Ricky's obviously out with an MCL injury until November, December. So what we were looking at was a bit of insurance for Jono. And we were looking at more of not necessarily an out-and-out goal scorer, but a more physical player. Against the teams like Cardiff, when Jono came off, we didn't have an outlet that could hold the ball up. So we were kind of looking for maybe that plan B. But, And of course, I always back the manager. My partners were on board. It wasn't we must sign a striker. It was if the right one became available, because you don't want to go signing players for the sake of it. If the right one became available, we'll do it. And the right one we thought became available until the price just kept going up, 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 and up because it was me calling. And I knew that, the minute it was me calling, I was like, this is getting silly. We made an incredible offer in a pandemic because if you look at all the fees and the deals that were done, the market for me outside the Premier League is in a recession. The football market is in a recession. And you could see that in the deals. Bar Fulham, there wasn't anyone else in the champs. We probably spent more money than most teams in the champ. And, obviously we were looking for this striker. It was a League One striker. It wasn't a prolific goal scorer, but we were getting quoted like nearly £2 million. Now, I respect the other club doing that because we've done that with our strikers. But when I quote big numbers for strikers, they're usually strikers that score 30 goals a season, not 8 or 9. So, but everyone can demand their own price and good luck. And at the end of the day, the great news there is these so-called little clubs who can turn down big offers and 7-figure offers, they can't play poor mouth anymore. They certainly can't say, well, we've got no money and blah, 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 but they can afford to turn down those kind of deals. That means they're in great shape, and that's a credit to their owner. So fair play to their owner. There was a price, but we didn't want to, I was never going near the price. And it was going on all day, and we were talking backwards and forwards, and it got to the stage where we needed to do a medical. And nowadays, when you pay big money, like medicals aren't just 10 minutes, check your knee and tickle your bollocks and make sure everything's fine. You're talking x-rays, tests, and it just got to the point where no. And I was never going to go to that figure. We had a figure in mind. Now, the deal we offered would have risen very, very substantially. It had a sell on. It was an incredibly good deal. But look, they said no. I respect that. And in the end, we pulled away. And really, there wasn't anything else there that was exciting enough to go, we're going to go get that player. It would have just been a token signing that would have been bad recruitment. It would have led to a bad decision. What you can't do with a squad of very good footballers is bring in something or someone that's not as technically good enough as them, who they're going to see in training, and that is the standard they're going to look at and go, we're signing that kind of player. You know what I mean? Like the one we were after, he would have complemented what we do, and the other players would have bought into that. But if we'd gone after another one and someone that we hadn't done enough due diligence on or enough scouting them for my gems, and I wasn't, that would have been bad. We've had a really good dressing room for 20 months. So it's really important. Every bit of recruitment we do is the right bit of recruitment, So, yeah, I said to the manager, did he want another defender? And he was adamant he didn't, because what he's really worried about is like, how does he get all these players in the squad? Beavers is back in 4 or 5 weeks. He played Butler there against West Brom, and he was excellent at centre-back. And we have young Ronnie. We've got Josh Knight, who's not on the team. And all of a sudden then Beavers comes back and you're like, wow, and you sign another one. You got 4 of them. You can only get 2 of them in the squad day as a sub, and then you got 2 not involved. So he was very, very, not worried, but he didn't want to end up where he's got all these footballers running around and he can't, they're going to be unhappy.
It's a position where once you get established, you're not going to get, unless you have a nightmare, you're not going to rotate players around.
Correct. You don't usually, when you have a setback 3 or you whatever. Last season, we played probably 90% of our games, if not 95%, with the same back 2 or back 3. So the only one I'd say would be Ronnie would probably break in quite soon into our team. And then again, he'd be set for as long as he's fit. So it's one of them where, we were like, you know what? No, there's no need for this. We want the central midfielder. We're going to do that, tick. And we got that done. And fair play, West Ham were brilliant. David Moyes is really good about it. And then obviously, then the striker, it just got daft in the end. And we were just like, no, it would look like a panic buy. And, I'm not going to do that. So we didn't lose anyone. We had nibbles from Dembele's agents. They were I think they were getting the tin tack the day afterwards. They didn't get him a move. So they were like stalking me night and day the day before, the day of, even last minute. Would you take this? And I said, I've told you from day one, don't waste my fucking time. It's stupid offers. And there was some clown, I don't know where he was from, one of the radio outlets, going around saying that Dembele was available for 2 million and 2.5 million. And it's swear to God, the biggest load of bollocks. Yeah, I turned down during the window verbal approaches at 2.5. Why would I then take less come deadline day? It made no difference. And by the way, those offers I verbally turned down were before he scored 2 and 3 appearances in the Championship. Why the fuck would I, So we were comfortable. He doesn't want to sign a new contracted player. That's fine. We're okay with that. We'll let him play. And,
Do you think that's going to
where he's
change? I'm sorry to jump in.
no. He sees himself playing for a top championship club. Fair enough. I respect that. Thing I'd say to him is, well, then make sure you're available for training. Make sure you're available to play every week. Make sure you're in the team every week. Then you will play for a top championship side. We're playing West Brom on the TV, and he doesn't train on the Thursday. I know what my manager's like. He's not going to pick a player that's not available to train on a Thursday and a Saturday. It killed us because you're thinking he's on TV, he scores a hat trick.
He's got his move.
Well, someone's going to give you 6-7 million for a championship striker with 4 or 5 goals after 4 or 5 games. It's 24. And it didn't really, because I was kind of glad, because I think we need him. I think the value in having him for the season while we establish ourselves is better than a 3-4 million net after a sell on to whoever we bought him from. So I actually think, and my partners were agreed with this, we need to establish ourselves in the league. If we're going really well, and we think we will be, and someone offers us 3 million in January, which they could, because again, even a player with 6 months left, if he's got 10, 12 goals, someone wants him, they'll still pay millions for him. We'll make the decision in January. But again, because we kept him, that's why I didn't want to go overboard on the player we were looking at in League One, as a striker. So I'm hoping he stays fit and he gets his head down and he proves to everyone he's a top championship striker.
Now, does the club that has a sell on with him get in your ear at all about the fact that, if he goes for nothing at the end of his contract, then they lose out on that? Or is that,
sure, of course,
when that happens, business. Is that,
I think we are talking about it? I want to say Grimsby are out like 20%, might be a bit more. So of net of what they've already, we've paid them. So if he went for, 4 million or 5 million, whatever, of course, there's a 7-day payday for them. So they were probably devastated. But they got new owners, I think. So, but no, they don't get in our ear. I mean, if there was a deal on the table and we felt, look, we need it to be better, we might contact them and say, look, we'll do a deal, but you've got to take a bit less, otherwise we'll keep them. So those conversations can happen. But no, they didn't get in our ear. If it was the previous owner, he might have rang Baz about it, but no, there was never a big conversation. But look, truth be known, I'm kind of happy he's still here. And you know what? His best way of getting everything he wants is being our best player. So, he's shown in glimpses this season he can be. Now I need him to be fully fit and at it. And when he's fully fit and at it, I think he's unplayable. And, it was a real shame he only got 25 minutes against West Brom. Because I think if he'd started that game, it could have been a different outcome.
Now, when we look at the rest of the transfer deadline, Dave, your boys Liverpool not really splashing the cash again, as we've talked about, expecting them not to, but it seems like they're just kind of happy with their lot and they're going to take the chances that Klopp can keep them in the top 4.
Yeah, I said it on Sky Sports Deadline Day. I did the show, and then, when you, as a Liverpool fan, you look at City's getting Grealish, and you look at Lukaku to Chelsea, you look at United getting Sancho, Varane, Ronaldo. You look at some of the business, even, an Aston Villa who went out and spent 110 million or whatever, and 3 or 4, including on Danny Ings, who'd score 20 goals. I mean, geez, I wish we kept him. And then you look at Liverpool, and my stress has always been, you get to January, like last year, you're in a really good place, and then you lose Mane and you lose Salah to the Africa, I forget what it's called now, the Nations of Africa Cup or African Nations Cup.
African Nations, yeah.
Yeah, and they go off, and then you lose for a few games, but one of them gets hurt or one of them gets injured, or Naby Keita's just gone away, and I believe his country is under military rule at the moment. He can't get back, and the game's been called off. So you're always worried about you're an injury in that area particularly. We had it last year defensively. Now we've got like 8 defenders, who can play central defence. In attack, you've got, as backup, you've got Divock Origi, Minamino, and I forget who the other one is, but let's just say none of them fill you with confidence to go out and beat Chelsea. We couldn't beat Chelsea with our proper front 3. So none of them fill you with confidence. So the idea that we're going to win the league, I would bow to Jurgen Klopp if we won the league this year. What he did 2 years ago was incredible, but these players were 2 years younger. They were new with him for a couple of years. They're now 4 years in. Some of them are the other side of 30. To go nearly a whole season without losing a game, you have to be at the peak of your powers. I watched the Chelsea game. Mane's, for me, is now gone the other way. He was poor last season. He's, poor against Chelsea. Firmino got injured. I've said he's been done for a year. And then you got Salah. So Jota I love, but again, has he ever had a full season without an injury? So you worry about the depth. Then today you read Harvey Elliott has pulled out of the England under 21 games. with an injury. Naby Keita stuck in Papua New Guinea. And I want to say there was someone else there that also pulled out of a game. That was Liverpool. So you're thinking to yourself, Christ, Firmino could be out for a few weeks with a hamstring injury. You know, Fenway are crazy. I said last year, the gamble of not getting a defender in with 60, 70 million in Champions League, it came down to our goalkeeper scoring a goal and getting us in the Champions League. And they're going to throw that again this season and roll with it, praying that they're going to make the Champions League. If they don't make the Champions League, it's catastrophic. Because when you come out of it like Arsenal, it's tougher to get back in. And other clubs are strengthening. And the biggest fear is players won't want to stay. Mo Salah, in his 30s, doesn't want to play at a club that's not in the Champions League. With all due respect. Fabinho, you ask him, does Virgil van Dijk not want to play Champions League football in his 30s? Because he's now turned the other side of 30. So once you come out of there, it suddenly becomes very problematic. So I question, Fenway are owned by billionaires. They have a valuation of, I think, $6-7 billion. To not be able to give Klopp 60, 70 million when they've had 2 years in a row where they've had a net surplus in spending, to not generate that kind of business money, to go and get him 2 players, a Wijnaldum replacement and one maybe more forward, even if that forward costs 60 million, whatever it might cost, to not go and do that, for me, I'm nervous. I'm nervous. It's all down to Jurgen again. Very nervous.
A couple of other things to ask you, and then we're going to go into the questions that we have this week. First of all, speaking of Ronaldo, there's a big debate about the blackout. Everyone complaining that they don't get to see Ronaldo play because it's 3:00 on a Saturday.
I get to see it. I get to watch it if I wanted to. I'm going to tape it because I'm in America here, so I'm watching a posh game. I'll watch that afterwards, I'll tape it. I mean, obviously we did away with it last year with iFollow during the pandemic, didn't we? Where fans could watch on a Saturday afternoon and whatever else. I think at this stage, yeah. I mean, are people going to stay at home and watch on TV and not go? The whole idea of the blackout is to preserve the gates, the live gates, correct? So, the question would be, will that Newcastle United game be affected attendance-wise if it was on TV at 3:00 on Saturday? I'm not sure it'd be a problem. So, the Premier League's a product. It's an entertainment product. And I think they've dropped the ball there. And I actually didn't know. I said to Sky Live on the transfer window, I said, you guys showing the Newcastle Man United game? There was a silence in the studio. I said it because they're not. So we all want to see Ronaldo come back. But knowing Ollie, he'll probably bring him on as a sub for the last 10 minutes.
Now, would you worry about people not buying posh tickets because they're staying at home to watch Man United on TV?
For lower league football, would I worry? No, we've got pretty much a hardcore fan base. I know that we're always in the championship with away. We're always going to get 10 to 11,000.
Yeah.
Would I worry in League 1 or League 2? Maybe. So you're absolutely right. Maybe that's the point. It'd stop people going to Bradford. They don't want to watch United. But then again, the hardcore fans always come, don't they?
Yeah.
And everyone's been without football for so long. So I don't know. But look, right now, if there's a chance that not having a blackout would affect lower league attendances, then I'm all for a blackout.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's really the intention of it. But yeah, give me Bradford versus Barrow over Ronaldo walking out at Old Trafford.
You just don't want your missus seeing him with his top off. That's the problem. I mean, as I say to my missus, don't be following that fella on Instagram. He looks like I did at 18.
That's incredible. We talked about it last week. That's the dedication to his craft, isn't it?
Listen. You know what? We're living in an era where him and Messi, are showing, that the sands of time, it doesn't affect them. And knowing Ronaldo, he'll play till he's 40. Yeah. And I would imagine we'll see Ronaldo in America, in the MLS, ripping it up, breaking records in the MLS when he's 40, 41. He's like the Tom Brady of football.
With his eyes closed in MLS.
Yeah, with his eyes closed, you know what I mean? So, you know what? Anyone who dedicates that much time to their craft deserves to play for as long as they want. And he is relentless in the pursuit of perfection. And getting that record against Ireland, even though I'm Irish, I was glad he got the record. I think it was an Iranian who had the record before that.
Yeah, Ali Dai.
Yeah, Ali Dai, whatever. But in fairness, Lukaku ain't fucking far behind. And Lukaku's got 50 international goals in his last 50 appearances. And he's 29, 28. So you'd think a target man plays probably into his mid-30s. So I dare say that, he could end up pipping Ronaldo.
So I may be late to the party on this, but I finally got to listen to the Roy Keane and Gary Neville interview that they did. I saw on YouTube. I think it may have been on Sky as well.
Yeah, it's
But
very
it was,
good.
yeah, really interesting to watch. One of the things that stood out to me that I actually wanted to ask you about was they were having a conversation about like why Roy hasn't got a job in management and he's been
Yeah,
trying
yeah,
to get a job in management,
yeah,
and Gary Neville kind of suggesting, well, you're not kind of playing the game, you're not putting
yeah,
yourself out there, and you're not being in the
yeah.
circle, if you will. And I just wondered, is there a circle, of those that are in the ears of owners who are just waiting for the job to come up? Like, are there things that I guess ex managers or wannabe managers are doing that is putting them to the front of the queue that folks like a Roy Keane aren't necessarily playing the game?
The problem with Roy frightens people. Like, I love him as a pundit. Would he frighten me as a manager? No, but I know I'd have a lot of rows with him because he's just that type of personality. Like, when he was at Sunderland, he did well at the start, and then it got to the stage where I think the Sunderland owner wanted him to live closer to the ground because he was travelling. And his response was, well, why don't you live closer to the ground? Because the owner lived in America. Well, with all due respect, you can't speak to your employer like that. It's not on them to live close to the fucking ground. They're not coaching and managing the team every day. So he gets in his own way at times. And I love him as a pundit. His managerial record everywhere he's been since that Sunderland, when they came from the bottom of the championship, won the league and got up to the Premier League, hasn't been good. So Martin O'Neill rates him because he's taken him everywhere as his number two. He took him to Ireland, took him to Forest. I think he went to Villa and coached. So he's obviously a very good coach, but I think he gets in his own way. And I think if he got out of his own way as he gets older and had another chance, he might do better. But if he went into a club and it was the same shenanigans and the same, falling out with directors, falling out with the owner, falling out with the press, fucking maybe having a fallout with the odd player too much. If that follows him again, I don't know how many chances he's got left. And that's always the problem. So my advice to Roy would be, go buy a fucking club. You've got enough money. If you want to be a manager again and prove that you can do it, what better pressure to put on yourself? Go buy a football club, put yourself in as manager, and then you don't have to answer to anyone, and then show the world you're a good football manager. As regards to managers being, clever and playing it, look, you've got managers who are prickly, who can't get out of their own way. You've got an issue with authority. You've got an issue with owners. You've got an issue with whatever. And then you've got other managers who play the game very well. And they might be a bit prickly, or Neil Warnock's of the world, but they play both sides very well. And that's why they've lasted the test of time. It's interesting that Chris Wilder, one of the best managers over the last 10 years, had a problem getting a club this summer. Why is that? It is because of his last year at Sheffield United. People from the outside in looked at it and went, ooh, you're playing games with your owner. You mightn't have the greatest owner in the world, but you're definitely playing games. You obviously don't want to be there. There's obviously something going on. And for me, and I respect him, I think he's a fucking brilliant manager, and I tried to get him years ago. I'm not sure he had his best time there. And I think that might have put people off in the summer. Because a manager as good as him, who's won League One, who's won League Two, who's won the Championship, who's got to the Premier League, he had a period of 5 years where he was the manager of the year every fucking year. He should have been up for as many jobs that were out there.
He should be walking into whatever job he wants.
Crystal Palace. Why didn't Crystal Palace want to hire him? Forget about, okay, he had a shit year at Sheffield United. But you know what? If all that stuff hadn't happened, where he walked away and it looked like there was a lot of issues between him and the ownership and how he came across in the press, he might have still got a Premier League job. You know what I mean? Even with a relegation, even if okay, we had a really bad season, we lost some key players and, we went down, he might still got a Premier League job. So, and I hope he gets another chance because I think he's a magnificent manager. But again, it's perception. And sometimes managers, and I always say this to them, watch how you come across in the media because you get judged very quickly, you get targeted very quickly, and you get basically stereotyped very quickly. So sometimes you have to be a bit of an actor with how you handle the press.
It's funny. One of the things in that Roy Keane Gary Neville discussion, Gary Neville was saying to Roy Keane about PR. You need to
the Instagram.
The managers need to have good PR to keep yourself in the minds of some of the owners.
Correct.
And then it was interesting. I think just today I read a piece about Chris Wilder, an interview with Chris Wilder in The Athletic. So it's like it almost feels like that's part of the PR campaign to change that perception, possibly of what Chris Wilder's last
rebuild. Absolutely, you need good PR, you need a good agent. But what you really need to be is you need to be good at the press. If I'm coming out and I'm moaning about my employers and I'm making excuses and I'm saying, they're not backing me in the transfer market. I need more players. I need this. I need that. And then I quit. And then I don't want to quit. And then I stay on. And then I quit again. And then they want me to go. And there's issues. That's not good. And it's not good perception to the out. And I get why you're doing it, because to the fan base, they adore you and they love you, so you can get away with it. But forget the fan base. They're one club. There's another 71 clubs you might want to work for down the line. So you have to manage the situation accordingly. And for me, it never looked right, that season that Sheffield United had. So, but again, that shouldn't take away from the fact he's a brilliant fucking manager. Brilliant manager. And the irony is, he was a brilliant manager when he was spending a lot less money. And then when it got really tetchy was when he was spending 25 million and 20 million on Brewster and 20 million on a goalkeeper. But when he was building that Sheffield United side in the Championship and he was spending $1 million or $500,000 or nicking players or making players out of nothing, he was superb. Sometimes money can spoil everything.
Do you sometimes, as you recruit, because you're spending money that a lot of lower league clubs may not have spent, at least on the transfer fees themselves, if not in the wages.
Yeah.
As you're looking to recruit, are you looking at, well, this manager's done really well without a budget? Is he actually going to be able to handle a budget? Or how do I consider if he can handle a budget or not?
Yeah, yes and no, because I also know we recruit our way. It doesn't change who the manager is. But of course, I had problems with Steve Evans, even though I'm close with Steve now and we still talk, because he was always challenging me in every interview he did. I'd signed him 17 players, but every interview I listened to was the chairman knows we need one more player. The chairman knows, to the point where I told him, shut the fuck up. And I told Barry to tell him, shut the fuck up, because he's irritating me. We went into a weekend with Ivan Toney, Matt Godden, and another striker. We had 3 unbelievable strikers, and he was like having a temper tantrum because I wouldn't sign Owen Doyle, a 32-year-old striker who wanted $6,000 a week and for 3 years. And this was the row we're having, and I just couldn't abide that shit. And I'm sure he's learned from that. And I'm at the stage in my life where I just couldn't be fucking bothered. And it was too much all the time. We need more players, need more players, need more players. It's kind of like, fucking shut up. My manager is at a place where he's really mature with it all, where he's not at me to sign 5-6 players because he knows it's just not realistic. And if it's quality, not quantity. And some managers need to keep bringing in new players every window because maybe they just exhaust the shit out of the ones they have and they stop listening to them. So the key there is summer get 15 in, January get another 10 in, because I'm going to lose them by January.
Yeah, they can only work through my methods for 6 months before it doesn't work anymore.
Right. Whereas I want a manager who we sign a player, he sees a project that he can develop for 2 years, who's going to do great things for us for 2 years, and then maybe the player gets moved on for big money. Do you know what I mean? So I want a manager who says, you know what, Chairman, your academy's got 5 players in there, and I think instead of going out and signing 7, 8 new players, we've got 5 there. We need 2 or 3 with them. We're going to bring 3 of them through now, 2 of them through in a year. And there's a method to the madness. So everyone's looking for a manager I don't want someone who wants to toe the party line, say like Jurgen's done, who's done brilliantly for Liverpool. I want somebody who believes in the process, trusts the process, and works in the process with you, not against you.
We have a couple of listener questions that I'm going to pose to you this week, Darragh. The first one is from German on Twitter. German says, Darragh has implied that when Posh stay up, he may start looking at foreign targets in a similar way to what Brentford did. Does he think that Brexit could start to become a problem with doing that?
Of course it's going to become a problem. So you've got to look at ways around it within the rules and the legalities. And, you're going to have to get permits. Now, it won't become, if you're signing players from France or Spain or Germany, you can get those permits. It's not as tough as signing someone from Brazil that might have to go get parked at Belgium and then loaned out and then get a certain amount of years in Europe before they can come to the UK. But it won't stop us from scouting in those waters and those areas, and we will start doing that next year. So I've already said that we're going to add to the GEM team probably a couple of foreign scouts whose job it will be to go around a few of the European leagues. We're going to learn the process through our lawyers of how to get permits and permission for people to come over. So it can be done. It will be done.
All right, I have a question from Dom, who's a Derby fan. Dom says, firstly, I love the podcast. And I guess it's more of a comment. I think that as a Derby fan, he's really frustrated with what's going on at Derby and with Mel Morris. I think he says, if Darragh says cut Mel Morris some slack one more time, I think my head will fall off, which seems to be a consensus of some of the Derby fans.
Get it.
He just said that, we have 5 EFL charges against us. And now there's a rumored 2-year transfer ban about to be placed on the club.
Yeah.
I think there's just a lot of frustration at Derby.
There is, I
Around.
think, because Mel's had obviously a big fight with EFL, and he's on the
Mhm.
other side of it. And now the EFL are probably gunning for him, vice versa. And all I was trying to say when I did an interview with a Derby podcast was, look, you had an owner who had the playoffs 4 to 6 years. He put 100
Yeah.
million into the club. Who obviously bet his bollocks on getting promotion. Who's obviously had a horrible 2 3 years. And what I was trying to say was, sometimes you want your fans with you when the going gets
Hmm.
tough. You've been there for them. You want them with you. And I get it. Football's all about winning, not having those issues, not becoming a Barry, not going down that route. But as far as I was concerned, of what I knew was, he's always paid wages. He's always kept the club afloat. It's never got to the stage where it became a Bolton or became a Wigan. And the charges obviously are very worrying, and the implications of that. So, look, I'm not going to have his head fall off, so I won't say it anymore. But looking from the outside in, it's a tough situation. But
Yeah.
fair play to Rooney. He's galvanised the players, and they've had a solid start.
One of the questions that I thought of as I read that from Dom related to Derby is actually related to Oldham. So we see this weekend, and I'm not sure if you've seen as you've been away. There's been a lot of protests against the owners again, pitch invasion at the game against Barrow. My question is, do protests like that actually achieve anything against the owners? Is it going to make the owners think, you know what, I've put up with all this crap and that's the final straw? Or is it going to kind of embolden them that I'm not going to get pushed around like this?
Yeah, I mean, look, I've got history with the older owner, so there's no love lost there. I could give a fuck about him. But it's a good club. And I'm not sure what his MO is or what his end goal is. But whatever it is and his plan is, it's not work, does it? So when you've managed to piss off, alienate the majority of your fan base, you're not doing a good job as an owner. So maybe it is time to find another owner. I'm not sure what you're waiting for. And yeah, if protests are affecting your gates, the best way fans can get rid of you is voting with their wallets. So if they're not buying tickets, if they're not buying commercial stuff, if they're not buying stuff in the shop, what is the fucking point in you being there? It's a bit like being in a marriage where your wife fucking hates your guts, and you're coming home and sleeping in the spare bedroom every night. Do you know what I mean? And she doesn't want you in the fucking house. How long are you going to hang around for? So, again, I don't get it myself. If posh fans turned on me in that way, I'd find a buyer and I'd be fucking out of there. I'd hightail it out of there. Because there's no way I'm going to want to be somewhere where I'm putting my money into and I'm not liked or wanted.
Yeah, it's not worth it for you.
No.
But then, your motivation is to enjoy being in the club and being
Correct.
involved in the club and building
Yeah,
and
win football games.
yeah. All right, I have one last question from Aidan, who's a posh fan. He asked, do you have a plan in place for next season when the terrace at London Road needs to be replaced?
Working on it at the moment. It's an expensive thing. So we are working on it. Even a temporary stand would be ridiculous money. So it's not as easy as we thought to just bolt in some seats. We were very fortunate to get permission because of COVID for this year. So we're working on a plan. And the issue is, we're moving to a new stadium to go and spend money. It's one of them. So myself and my partners have an owners meeting next week. That's one of the things on the item list. I think November we have to decide by roughly what we're going to do, because of the time it would take and the planning it would take. So yeah, it's a frustration, but it's not the end of the world either.
All right, well, let's wrap it up for this week.
Perfect.
I do want to remind everybody the Football Content Awards. We've been nominated for the best podcast for the EFL, and voting ends on September the 12th, this coming Sunday. So really encourage you, if you like the show, you haven't voted already, please go and do that. You can go to footballcontentawards.com/voting. And I also wanted to give a shout out for our producer, Henry. He actually co-hosts the MLS UK show, and they've been nominated in the international category. So while you're voting for us, go and vote for Henry as well.
No. Henry can be a winner with us. So stop being such a nice guy, Phil. Nice guys finish last. Listen,
maybe we'll reduce our bill if we can get him some votes.
I don't do this podcast for money, but the guys who do it, like Henry, like Rob, like yourself, I want people to vote to win an award for you guys, not for me, for you guys, because of the work you put in. So if anyone out there is listening, you love it, please go and put 50 votes in each person, because to get that kind of recognition, for you guys and the sweat equity that you guys stick into this would be magnificent. And I know Rob's taking his missus to the event, so it'd be great for him to be able to get up and get the award. Henry, I love you, but there's no fucking way I'm voting for your MLS show. I want you to win the award for this show. All right, so get to the stage where we can make enough money through sponsorship where you can dump all the other shows, Henry. So that's where we need to be. So if you're listening, fans, reviews, awards, a vote for us, because the success of the show depends on it, from my engineers and my people around me who want to keep doing the show. So get out there and go online. It's easy to do, and vote as many times as you can.
Yeah, footballcontentawards.com/voting. And of course, any questions that you got, keep sending them over. We've got some that we had a few this week that we're going to push over to next week, but keep them coming. hadtruthfootball.com/contact, or of course on Twitter. You can always DM us as well. So
great.
That's it.
Thanks,
That's
guys.
a wrap for another week.